Live from New Delhi, you're watching DD India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Coming up in the next hour, Prime Minister Modi addresses the first in a series of post-budget webinars, talks about technology and reforms to strengthen the implementation of budget announcements. President Murmu takes a flight in a combat helicopter at Jaisalmer near Pakistan border. New warship commissioned into the Indian Navy, the INS Anjadip boosts anti-submarine warfare capabilities and coastal surveillance. And Pakistan's defense minister declares an open war on Taliban-ruled Afghanistan, bombs Afghan cities after Kabul retaliates for an earlier Pakistani attack. Pakistan's Defence Minister Khwaja Asif has declared that there is now an open war between Pakistan and Afghanistan following months of tit-for-tat clashes. Pakistan bombed Afghan cities, including capital Kabul, on Friday, hours after Afghan forces attacked Pakistani troops in what the Taliban said was a retaliation for earlier Pakistani airstrikes. Tensions between Pakistan and Afghanistan have escalated sharply following cross-border airstrikes and military exchanges along the Durand Line, which is the de facto border between the two. The Afghan Ministry of Defense said that 8 Afghan soldiers were killed in the clash and many civilians injured near the Torkham crossing at a camp for refugees who have returned from Pakistan. The Taliban confirmed the Pakistani airstrikes, but its spokesperson denied any casualties. And despite mediation by Qatar, Turkey and Saudi Arabia, clashes continue to break out between Pakistan and Afghanistan. Here's a timeline of how tensions have been rising between the two neighbors.
Between 11th and 19th October 2025, large-scale clashes took place between Afghanistan and Pakistan. They ended in a ceasefire mediated by Qatar, Turkey and Saudi Arabia. On 7th November 2025, fresh clashes broke out at Chaman's bin Boldak border crossing. On 21st February 2026, Pakistan struck Afghanistan, claiming it targeted terror camps. At least 18, including women and children, were killed in the Pakistani strikes. On 26 February, Afghanistan retaliated, hitting Pakistani border posts. Pakistan's Defense Minister Khwaja Asif declared that the country is in an open war with Afghanistan. Bureau Report, DD India.
And joining us for more is Ambassador Sushil Kumar Singhal. Ambassador Singhal is a former Indian envoy to Angola and Papua New Guinea. Ambassador, welcome to DD India News Hour. Now, for the benefit of viewers joining us from around the world, what really is happening between Pakistan and the Taliban-ruled Afghanistan? They were allies at one time. They could still get back to how they were, but for the moment, it appears that their relations are not that cordial. What explains this downturn in relations?
Oh, well, I think I'm saying, if I can say in very short, the thing, when Taliban got power in 2021, once the US forces left,
right,
the Pakistan thought they will be their proxy. And they will be able to solve their internal problems and the border problems with the help of Taliban. And Taliban has not played ball. So Pakistan is not very happy. The thing is, as we know, that the Durand Line between the two countries is not acceptable to Afghanistan because they claim that it is imposed. And the real reason is that, this line divide the Pakhtuns on the two sides. So Afghanistan has never accepted that this is a real line. So that's the main cause. And Pakistan, has been always fighting this war and with the non-state actors. It encouraged all the non-state actors, and Taliban is, of course, as we all know, is were nurtured and created by Pakistan. Of course, they thought, they will not turn against them, but Taliban branched out into two. That is Afghanistan Taliban and Taliban Pakistan.
Right.
And this Taliban Pakistan, they are not happy the way things are happening in Pakistan, and they have waged a war against the government
Right.
of Pakistan. And Pakistan claims are looking for support of Afghanistan Taliban in controlling this TTP Pakistan. And Afghanistan claims that they are not they are not living in Afghanistan, so we cannot control them. And also, as we all know, that the region, the terrain in that area in Afghanistan as well as in Pakistan, the Baluch in that area is very, very difficult. And historically, nobody has been able to control them. So even if they are there, I don't think Afghanistan government is in position to control them,
Okay.
because it's a porous border. And Pakistan itself is not able to control them, because what is happening in Balochistan, Pakhtunistan, we all know what is happening there. And Pakistan army is not able to control, or the civilian authority, because they have their concern and they are not happy with the way they are being treated. So, but the Pakistan was to shift the blame, is claiming that Afghanistan is not helping.
Right, right. Ambassador, now Pakistan's defense minister has declared an open war against Taliban-ruled Afghanistan. Is it a formal declaration of war?
Well, the way he is, because, problem with the Pakistani defense minister is that, he makes a statement. And then which is not backed by the state.
Right.
But because if he's saying that is an open war, so what was happening earlier? I fail to understand. I think there was war that was going on, fight was going on. Continuously there was skirmishes going on. And now they said that we have already launched this Operation Ghazab Lil Haq. This is anger for truth. I don't know which anger and where the anger is and for what truth they are looking for. But this declaration, unless it is backed by action on the Pakistan side, I would still take it with a pinch of salt, because I don't think Pakistan is in a position to engage with Afghanistan at a very large scale, because the Americans and Soviets of the time, they have learned their lessons that anybody entering into Afghanistan, it's their graveyard. So if the Pakistan tries to enter, they may, keep attacking from time to time. This kind of attack, like they have done today morning, and earlier also, the Air Force went. But sending the ground forces into Afghanistan, I don't think they are they have a capacity or willingness to go.
Okay, fair enough. But Ambassador, even if one were to assume that the Pakistani minister is speaking only on his behalf, does the declaration itself mean that the October 2025 ceasefire is now officially dead?
Oh yes, I completely agree that because whatever the understanding was, there was no really understanding. What they agreed was, because the condition what the Pakistan wanted Afghanistan to accept, they didn't accept. What Afghanistan wanted, Pakistan didn't accept. So what was a sort of a truce, a ceasefire, truce, whatever you want to call it. But there was no peace.
Right.
It was just stoppage of the hostilities. So which has now commenced. So obviously that truce is over now.
Fair enough. Also, Ambassador, there are reports that of the Taliban downing Pakistani aircraft. What do you reckon?
Well, this Afghanistan side has claimed, has shown some photos, but there is no reaction from the American side, because US, F-16 was supplied by US. So normally they were very, very carefully, they watch the end use. And American side so far has not reacted. And what Afghanistan has shown as an evidence. Still, I would say that it needs some more verification
Okay.
before we can say conclusively that it has really happened. But if it has happened, all credit goes to the Afghan Defense Forces if they are able to do that.
Okay. So to come back to the moot point, Ambassador, what's really at the heart of the tensions between Pakistan and the Taliban? How had the relations soured so dramatically and so quickly?
Well, as I said, beginning that, in 2021, uh, Pakistan, if you remember, then Prime Minister Imran, he says, Afghanistan has become Azad under the Taliban has come in force. So the expectation was that they're looking for this strategic depth all the time in
Right.
Afghanistan, which and their expectations were very high that Taliban will be beholden to them. But Taliban too is very smart, and they are looking for legitimacy and protecting their national interests.
Right.
And they realize their national interest does not lie with Pakistan, because Pakistan as a neighbor has never supported really Afghanistan. They have always looked for their own interest because they want to solve their internal problem with the help of Afghanistan, be it a Durand line or be it a problem of the Taliban's and these terrorist, so-called terrorist groups which are operating with the help of their deep state. ISI is the one who has really nurtured and created them. So it's their own creations are now threatening them, which happens. We have seen the history that whenever you try to create this kind of forces, they ultimately bite you. So this is what is happening to Pakistan. So
Okay.
Pakistan was expecting that Afghanistan government, Taliban, will help them to control that. And Taliban has own compulsions. Afghanistan, because they are brothers.
Right.
They are Pakhtuns. So they cannot really, first of all, I doubt that they have any control over them. If they have, they will not be able to exercise control because they will be held by their own people or their own population
Right.
if they are there.
Ambassador, as we wrap it up, I have to ask you this question. You've contrasted Pakistan's ties with the Taliban, and in the same vein, how are India's ties with the Taliban coming along?
Well, India has always been supportive of Afghanistan. We have invested a lot of money in last 25 years, the kind of project we have undertaken. And when the Taliban too came into the power after the Americans left in a hurry, they have realized that keeping good relation with India will be helpful them because they also, as I said, they are looking for a long-term. They want to establish their state and they want to benefit their own people. So they find that India is a reliable partner. And India has no problem in cooperating with them because we already have invested so much. So we would like to protect the assets which we have created or we are creating for the people of Afghanistan. So Afghanistan finds that India has is the real friend of theirs because we have always been helping the countries in global south, including Afghanistan. So Taliban find that India is a helpful partner, and we are willing to provide them required assistance, be it in the construction of the roads or power stations. I mean, Parliament, of course, was also gifted
Indeed.
by us. So they find that India is a partner, and we have no axe to grind with them. They also know that we have no interest in their internal affairs. That's for them to run. So they find India to be a reliable partner, and India also is willing to help because we have always been helpful to everybody.
Right. On that note, Ambassador Singhal, thank you for joining us and sharing your thoughts with our viewers at home and abroad. Thank you for your time. Much appreciated. Right, and still to come on DD India News Hour. The third round of US-Iran talks end with no deal. And former US Secretary of State Hillary Clinton tells a lawmakers panel that she had no idea of convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein's crimes.
pollution is no longer an accident. It's a system, an outcome of our choices. So today we ask a simple but urgent question. Is there a fix to all this pollution?
This biosphere or this project is, it can have an educational value, it can have a role model value, but in terms of scale, how it is going to be impacting overall, I think Uttarakhand is blessed.
Air pollution is a major problem globally, and certainly it is also in India. So monitoring air pollution is one important step towards managing it.
Bans can work if they're enforced, clearly communicated, internationally synced, and designed to avoid loopholes, and if they're backed by long-term political will.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Iranian and US delegations wrapped up their new round of nuclear talks in Geneva, Switzerland after significant progress in the negotiation. The meeting marked the third round of indirect nuclear talks between Iran and the US, mediated by Oman, which began on Thursday. The Iranian delegation was led by Foreign Minister Syed Abbas Araghchi, while US President Donald Trump's Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and his son-in-law Jared Kushner represented the US in the negotiations. Oman's Foreign Minister Badr al-Busaidi said the two sides plan to resume negotiations soon. Technical level discussions would take place in Vienna next week. Iran's Minister Araghchi said after the talks that it was one of their most serious and longest rounds of negotiations and it made good progress. He said the two sides had agreed to begin technical reviews in Vienna on Monday. He reiterated that in order to reach a deal, the US will have to drop its quote-unquote excessive demands.
We made good progress and very seriously entered into the elements of a possible agreement, both in the nuclear field and in the area of sanctions. On some issues, we have now become very close to an understanding. On certain other issues, we still have differences of opinion. The technical teams will begin technical talks in Vienna on Monday at the International Atomic Energy Agency, and with the assistance of the agency's experts, we will try to bring some of the technical issues into a framework so that it can later be aligned with the political demands of both sides.
Ukraine and the US concluded their talks and preparations are underway for the next round of negotiations. Ukraine's chief negotiator Rustam Umarov said that the objective is to make the next trilateral meeting involving the US and Russia as substantive as possible. He said that particular attention during the latest meetings was devoted to Ukraine's economic track and long-term support mechanisms. Separately, Russia's presidential special envoy Kirill Dmitriev held talks with US representatives in Geneva. He declined to comment on the results of negotiations with the US. After the talks, Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky said that trilateral talks are likely to take place in Abu Dhabi in March. The talks would aim to prepare the way for a meeting of Ukraine and Russia's leaders.
More readiness for the next trilateral meeting. Most likely, the next meeting will be in the Emirates, in Abu Dhabi. We expect the gathering to happen at the beginning of March to finalize everything that was agreed for real security guarantees. To prepare a meeting at the level of country leaders, this particular format could advance many things.
The International Monetary Fund has approved an $8.1 billion four-year loan for Ukraine, of which $1.5 billion would immediately be dispersed. The new loan will help Kyiv maintain economic stability and keep public spending flowing. Ukraine's Prime Minister Yulia Svyridenko hailed the loan as part of a broader financial framework that would cover an estimated budget shortfall of $136.5 billion over 4 years. IMF chief Kristalina Georgieva said the loan would resolve Ukraine's balance of payments problem and also restore medium-term external viability. She said it will also boost the prospects for reconstruction and growth after the conflict ends. It would also help to facilitate Ukraine's steps to join the European Union. Former U.S. Secretary of State Hillary Clinton told a committee of lawmakers that she did not remember ever meeting the late sex offender Jeffrey Epstein. Clinton said that she had no information to share about his criminal activities. Clinton delivered a closed-door deposition to the House of Representatives Oversight Committee in New York City on Thursday. She characterized her knowledge of Epstein's associate Ghislaine Maxwell as casual, describing her as an acquaintance. Hillary Clinton and her husband, former President Bill Clinton, initially refused to testify before the committee but relented when lawmakers moved to hold them in contempt of the legislature. Hillary Clinton expressed confidence that her husband knew nothing of Epstein's crimes when they were still in contact. Bill Clinton is scheduled to testify before the committee on Friday.
I answered every one of their questions as fully as I could, based on what I knew. I never met Jeffrey Epstein, never had any connection or communication with him. I knew Ghislaine Maxwell casually as an acquaintance. I think the chronology of the connection that he had with Epstein ended several years before anything about Epstein's criminal activities came to light.
Britain has reached an agreement with police on releasing documents linked to the 2024 appointment of Peter Mandelson as its ambassador to the US. 72-year-old Mandelson was arrested by London's Metropolitan Police on suspicion of misconduct in public office over his ties to Jeffrey Epstein and then released. The controversy has intensified pressure on Prime Minister Keir Starmer, who dismissed Mandelson in September after details of the relationship emerged. Separately, the EU's anti-fraud office is reviewing Mandelson's past role as Trade Commissioner in Brussels, but has not opened a formal probe. Emails released by the US Justice Department suggested close ties with Epstein than previously known. His lawyers reject allegations, calling them unfounded. Paramount Skydance was poised to take control of Warner Brothers Discovery after Netflix said it would not raise its takeover offer, effectively ending one of the biggest media bidding wars in a generation. The deal would place a vast portfolio, including CNN, Nickelodeon, and HBO, under the control of the family led by Larry Ellison, a longtime ally of US President Trump. Netflix said matching Paramount's sweetened $31 per share offer was no longer financially attractive. Without a counteroffer, Warner Brothers Discovery can now terminate its agreement with Netflix and proceed with Paramount's bid, which also includes financing commitments and a regulatory termination fee. Right now, take a look at what else is making news around the world. South Korea on Friday approved Google's request to export the country's high-precision map data to overseas servers, a major reversal after 2 decades of rejection that clears the way for the US tech giant to enter a market dominated by local labs. The approval was made on the condition that strict security requirements will be met. Pokemon turns 30, marking 3 decades of global popularity. From iconic characters such as Pikachu and Lucario, the franchise now features more than 1,000 creatures. Fans say the games create a lasting emotional bond, helping make it one of Japan's most successful cultural exports. US actor and director Bill Duke received his star on the Hollywood Walk of Fame on Thursday. Known for iconic roles in Car Wash, Predator and Black Lightning, Duke has also directed and mentored emerging black talent for decades. Speaking at the ceremony, he called the star a lasting legacy for future generations. Moving on, Prime Minister Narendra Modi addressed a post-budget webinar on Friday. The webinar focuses on capital expenditure, infrastructure, banking sector reforms, financial sector architecture, deepening of capital markets and ease of living through tax reforms. is the first in a series of post-budget events being organized on key themes emerging from the 2026-27 budget. These webinars aim to draw lessons from past experiences and obtain structured feedback from participants to strengthen and ensure outcome-oriented implementation of the budget announcements, drawing upon the practical experience and insights of all stakeholders concerned. The Prime Minister said that India has shown extraordinary resilience over the past decade and that it is the gift of reforms driven by conviction.
पिछले एक दशक में भारत ने असाधारण रेजिलियंस दिखाई है और ये संयोग से नहीं आई है। हमारी रेजिलियंस कन्विक्शन ड्रिवन रिफॉर्म्स की देन है। हमने प्रोसेसेस को सरल किया है, ईज ऑफ डूइंग बिजनेस को बेहतर बनाया है, टेक्नोलॉजी लेड गवर्नेंस का विस्तार किया है, इंस्टीट्यूशंस को मजबूत किया है और आज भी ये देश रिफॉर्म एक्सप्रेस पर सवार है। इस मोमेंटम को बनाए रखने के लिए हमें ना केवल पॉलिसी इंटेंट पर ध्यान देना है, बल्कि डिलीवरी एक्सीलेंस पर भी फोकस करना है।
India's statistical system is undergoing a modernization drive to better reflect the realities of a fast-changing economy. With rapid expansion in services, greater formalization and digital transformation, the government has initiated key reforms and strengthened the quality, timeliness and credibility of official data. Take a look at the major changes.
The base year for gross domestic product has been revised from 2011-12 to 2022-23 to capture structural shifts in the economy, including emerging sectors and changing consumption patterns. The new series incorporates improved data sources and methodological refinements. It will be released on 27th February this year. The Consumer Price Index will be updated with the new base year of 2024 using data from the Household Consumption Expenditure Survey 2023-24 to revise the item basket and weights. The Index of Industrial Production base year is being revised to 2022-23 to reflect technological changes and evolving industrial structure. Updated sectoral coverage and weights aim to improve accuracy. The new IIP series is scheduled for release on 28th May this year. Labor market and enterprise data systems have also been strengthened. Monthly labor indicators are now released under the Periodic Labor Force Survey, while quarterly bulletins on unincorporated enterprises provide more frequent insights. District-level estimates and digital data collection platforms have further enhanced granularity and timeliness. Bureau Report, DD India.
And still to come on DD India News Hour.
Pollution is no longer an accident. It's a system, an outcome of our choices. So today we ask a simple but urgent question. Is there a fix to all this pollution?
This biosphere or this project is, it can have an educational value, it can have a role model value, but in terms of scale, how it is going to be impacting overall, I think Uttarakhand is blessed.
Air pollution is a major problem globally, and certainly it is also in India. So monitoring air pollution is one important step towards managing it.
Bans can work if they're enforced, clearly communicated, internationally synced, and designed to avoid loopholes, and if they're backed by long-term political will.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran. Electronics and Information Technology Minister Ashwini Vaishnav addressed a Digital News Publishers Association conclave in New Delhi on Thursday. He said revenue generated by social media platforms must be shared fairly across all categories of content creators. He called it a crucial step towards safeguarding trust in the digital age.
The platforms must also share revenue in a fair way with the people who are creating the content, whether it is news persons, the conventional media, the creators sitting in far-flung areas, large influencers, the small influencers, the professors and researchers who are disseminating their work using the platforms. Everywhere, the concern, the principle now has to be set right, and there has to be a fair share of revenue with the people who are creating the content.
And joining us is Mr. Subimal Bhattacharjee. Mr. Bhattacharjee has an abiding interest in all things IT. Mr. Bhattacharjee, welcome to DD India News Hour. Now, Minister Vaishnav speaks about how the revenues generated by social media platforms must be shared fairly across all categories of content creators. He also calls it a crucial step towards instilling trust in the digital age. Why don't you put the minister's text in its proper context for our viewers?
I think the minister was very forthright, because if you see the size of the digital market here, in 2024 it was almost $13.6 billion, and it's targeted to go to $30 billion by 2030. That's a huge amount of money. And there's a lot of shift happening to digital advertisement, which these particular platforms are primarily garnering. In comparison, they have not been sharing with the content creators, with the journalistic contents, the influencers, that whole community. And as a result of which, this is somewhere an unskewed scenario is happening, that people who are not actually creators and or just only aggregators are benefiting out of somebody else's work, and then at the same time not recognizing that. Unless you monetize those people who are giving you that opportunity to earn, I think it's a very unfair game. So the minister was very right. He gave a very polite message that, if you are not taking the steps, then possibly we'll have to go the regulatory or the legal way.
Fair enough. So the minister has spoken about how social media platforms should pay content creators fairly. Fair enough. But what is fair compensation, and how does the government or anyone for that matter ensure that? Is there a formula for sharing revenue?
Well, there is no clear-cut formula at this stage, or if, anything has been offered by the platforms also. But if you take the case in Australia, where such an attempt happened in 2021 when the law was brought in, and, I think 250 million Australian dollar was kind of fixed to be divided among the content creators, but Meta walked out of it after 3 years, saying, I think they had an obligation of about $70 million. They walked out of it. So I think that model possibly didn't work the way it should have. So there is work that has to happen here. I would think best formula is a harmonized scenario where the way the government has a soft touch approach on all these things. I think the content creators as well as these platforms should decide among themselves. Obviously, the big tech fellows will try to dictate, but I would think a fair game can happen if that conversation happens, and if it seems unfair or over a period of time, if it is found that they are still not respecting the value. I gave you the figures. I'm sure they have the courts and other redressal mechanism to get fair.
So if all goes well, all those YouTubers watching this broadcast, hearing you at this moment, can they expect to make more money in the future?
Absolutely, they should.
Okay.
I think they're still making far much lesser than the intellectual effort and the quality of the content they are putting. Someone else is benefiting out of their ingenuity.
Now, Minister Vaishnav makes another interesting and some would say valid point. He says platforms must take responsibility for the content. Do you agree?
Absolutely. I think, he was very right, and he explained it also, that initially when you started the intermediaries under the section 79 of the IT Act, the safe harbor clauses that they got, now it gave them a certain sense of, of course, legal immunity they had. But the aspect of, moral responsibility that allowed them to remain scot-free if, they didn't have any role in the inception, transmission and reception of any content, that held. But now today when, these platforms over this period of time have become themselves, I can't use the word complicit, but very much aware of what is happening in terms of what is going through their platform, they have to take responsibility. And that is where I think the rules that we have and the intermediary guidelines that we first brought out in May 2021 and now amended even earlier this month, where the synthetic generated information, the AI generated content has also been taken care of, as well as the takedown notice brought down from 36 hours to 3 hours. I think that is reflecting on the philosophy in which the understanding now is that you cannot claim immunity by saying that you were not aware. So your responsibility has increased. So I think it's a good step to make them far much more committed to the consumers.
Another question everybody out there is wanting to ask is, what is being done or needs to be done going forward to combat deep fakes and the spread of disinformation through synthetically generated content as major threats to the trust? In Finland, for example, I'm told that students are taught how to spot AI fakes from a very early age.
Yeah, I think even here a lot of entities are working on this. How do you identify a deep fake from an actual content? So one step is what is expected out of these rules that are being announced. But other than that, there are software solutions or detecting tools also that are being done. In the AI summit, I myself saw a couple of the organization. One was a university from the Northeast, and there was another one from Bangalore, who were having deepfake detecting techniques. But even if you leave aside that, I think the steps that were taken in terms of the intermediate guidelines rules, in terms of labeling and how what is the extent to which that labeling has to happen, to a great extent it will ameliorate the situation. But there are a lot of content, and the speed and the precision with which they come, sometimes it gets very difficult initially to catch it, and it creates the havoc in the short period of time. And that is the reason also the 3-hour notice period from 36 hours should work. So I think it's a double-pronged effort that has come through the rules. We only hope that we have better attribution techniques also, which still remains the biggest problem in cybersecurity till date.
Indeed. Now you began by sharing some numbers about the Indian, the creator economies. How big is the creator economy in India as compared to, say, the world?
Right now it's about evaluated about $20-25 billion. So I think it's significant, and the ingenuity with which they are able to put up things and move ahead with the times. I think we really need to find a way to support them. So the story of TikTok and all are over in this country. A great step again. When America has been dilly-dallying and playing, we took a decision way back in 2020. And right now, if we take this opportunity to give opportunity to the youngsters who had gone the TikTok route, I think they will really be, monetized. So I think we are at a point of time where this whole creative economy will grow, and we have to find ways and means to do it. And people who are making money out of the whole system without their own real ingenuity should possibly part with more money.
Absolutely, why not? And finally, you refer to the rules of the road, as it were, in terms of the creator economy and its growth, exponential growth in some ways. Is India's regulatory framework robust enough? You refer to the IT Act of 2000 and then the IT intermediary guidelines and Digital Media Ethics Code rules of 2021. Are they robust enough? Are they to your satisfaction at least?
I think they are robust enough, but as I told you, the soft touch approach of regulation that has been shown, but yet, India has been one of the first countries in taking the regulations on the ground and implementing them. So that's also a sincere confidence building measure, not within the country, but many countries follow what is the step taken in India. So I think that it's a very good way. The soft touch approach is the best, but the IT Act 2000 will see its own amendments shortly. So I would assume in the wisdom of the government, they will implement more steps that are more recent with times and technology. So for now, it is what we have. We can definitely tackle the situation.
Right. On that note, Mr. Bhattacharya, thank you for joining us and sharing your thoughts with our viewers.
Thank you.
Thank you for your
Mr.
time.
Ramesh.
Much appreciated. Right, moving on, President Draupadi Murmu created history by flying a sortie in the indigenous light combat helicopter Prachand in Jaisalmer on Friday. Now, Prachand is India's light combat aircraft. The sortie preceded exercise Vayu Shakti at Pokhran later in the day. DD India's Vishal Baristo reports.
Dressed in uniform, the Supreme Commander of India, escorted by the Chief of the Indian Air Force, took sortie of the Prachand helicopter at the Jaisalmer Air Force Station. Escorting the Supreme Commander was Air Chief Marshal A.P. Singh, the Chief of the Indian Air Force. The highlight of the 25-minute sortie was the radio message of the President from the cockpit. President Murmu has also flown Sukhoi 30 MKI and Rafale on October 29, 2025.
LCH Prachand is a prominent example of the self-reliant Indian forces, said the President of the country, who's also the Supreme Commander of the Indian Armed Forces. In a 25-minute sortie, she gave a clear message to the world and also to the enemy that Indian forces are always ready for any eventuality. Quite a message also for the women empowerment across the country. With cameraman Shiv in Jaisalmer, this is Vishal Baristo for DD India.
Canada's Prime Minister Mark Carney will begin his 4-day visit to India from Friday. It'll be his first trip to India as Prime Minister. On Friday and Saturday, he will be in India's financial capital Mumbai, where he will take part in separate business engagements, interact with Indian and Canadian CEOs. On Sunday and Monday, Prime Minister Carney will be in New Delhi, where the two Prime Ministers will hold delegation-level talks at Hyderabad House. Both leaders will review the progress achieved till date across diverse areas of the India-Canada strategic partnership, building on their earlier meetings in Kananaskis in June and Johannesburg in November 2025. Prime Minister Modi and Prime Minister Carney will attend an India-Canada CEOs forum as well. The visit will seek to reaffirm the positive momentum and shared vision of India and Canada in building a forward-looking partnership. The Indian Navy on Friday commissioned its anti-submarine warfare shallow watercraft, the INS Anjadip, in Chennai. The third vessel of the 8-ship anti-submarine warfare shallow watercraft project was commissioned by the Navy Chief Admiral Dinesh K. Tripathi. Anjadip is a state-of-the-art vessel specifically designed to address the challenges of the littoral combat environment, the coastal and shallow waters vital for the nation's security. The vessel is engineered to act as a dolphin hunter focused on the detection, tracking and neutralization of enemy submarines in coastal areas. Its induction bolsters the Navy's capacity to safeguard India's vast maritime interests and coastal approaches, including Tamil Nadu and Puducherry, marking another key step in transforming the Navy into a formidable builder's Navy. Addressing the commissioning ceremony, Indian Navy Chief Dinesh Tripathi echoed the vision laid out by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh, stressing that indigenization in defence production strengthens operational preparedness and national security. Take a listen.
Our Raksha Mantri Shri Rajnath Singh ji had said that indigenization in defense production enhances operational preparedness and strengthens national security. In that spirit, our pursuit of Atmanirbharta, both in intent and execution, has ensured that the ship enters service with robust capability and operational effectiveness from the very outset with minimal shipbuilders' liability.
Port where the Indian Navy is preparing for a significant addition to its commissioning of the maritime arsenal. Behind me, the atmosphere is set for the commissioning of INS Anjadip, the third of the 8 indigenously designed anti-submarine warfare shallow hunter ships. The vessel isn't just a ship, it's a dolphin hunter specifically engineered to track and neutralize enemy threats in shallow water. As Chief of Naval Staff Admiral Dinesh K. Tripathi officially inducts the warship into the fleet, India marks another major milestone in its journey for becoming Builder Navy. With camera person Surya from Chennai, this is Akshana for DD India.
Sail trading ship the INS Tarangini of the Indian Navy arrived at Trincomalee, Sri Lanka on Friday as part of India's maritime outreach initiative called Bridges of Friendship, aimed at strengthening naval cooperation with Sri Lanka. It is on its return voyage from Visakhapatnam after participating in the International Fleet Review. The INS Tarangini, the first sail trading ship of the Indian Navy, is renowned for its global circumnavigation in 2004 and its role in promoting India's maritime heritage and naval diplomacy. India is stepping into a new era of technological self-reliance. At the AI Impact Summit in New Delhi, homegrown innovations took center stage. From powerful large language models to breakthroughs in speech technology, Indian companies showcase world-class AI built on Indian soil. And this marks the rise of sovereign AI, a bold move towards true digital independence.
Bangalore-based Sarvam AI was the most talked about model at the India AI Impact Summit 2026 held in New Delhi last week. The company launched 2 large language models, a 30 billion parameter and a 105 billion parameter model. Both models were developed entirely in India. The company claims that its large model challenges global systems like DeepSeek R1 and Gemini Flash on several parameters. These models are built on a mixture of expert architecture which enables high performance at low cost and low energy. This means the technology is advanced and also cost effective. Gyani.ai made the second major announcement. The company introduced a text-to-speech model called Vachna TTS, which can reproduce human voices in 12 languages from just 10-second audio clip. This technology, which works effectively even at low internet speeds, is designed for government services, call centers, and large enterprise systems. This means that even if someone cannot read or write, they can still access government schemes and digital services by speaking their mother tongue. This is true power of digital inclusion. Bharat Gen initiative led by IIT Bombay also introduced a multilingual foundation model called Param 27B, which is specifically adapted for Indian languages and aims to empower the use of AI in sectors such as governance, education, health, agriculture, and industry. Sovereign AI is a new chapter in India's digital sovereignty, a chapter where technology is not just a means of progress but foundation for a self-reliant future. Bureau Report, DD India.
Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz is busy traveling these days. After returning from Beijing, he is set to travel to the US next week to meet US President Donald Trump. Lars Holter is with Deutsche Welle and he joins me from Berlin. Lars, tell us more about these trips.
Two really big trips in just a few days. One thing is certain, it won't be helping the Chancellor with those criticizing him for his very strong focus on foreign trade and policy and for not paying enough attention to matters within his own borders. Anyway, it's hard to argue that these trips aren't immensely important. They certainly are. I don't know which trip is actually more important. Next week, Friedrich Merz's visit in Washington will be with the country's oldest and most important Western ally, who is no longer seen as a reliable friend and partner. This week's visit to Beijing, however, was with a former competitor/partner who has become so economically powerful that this partnership threatens the economic stability of Germany and the EU. A very tricky situation. Now, looking at Beijing, Chancellor Merz was all about friendly diplomacy. The word respect was heard quite often, even though many had hoped that Merz would push China harder towards tackling the enormous trade imbalance with Europe, or to give German companies better market access. After all, China has invested heavily in Germany and Europe over the past few years, while not allowing the same investment by Western countries. There's also the question of subsidies. We did hear that some of these topics were touched on in closed-door meetings, whereas the only critical statement from the Chancellor came after his meeting with President Xi, when he did say that, quote, "We need transparency, we need reliability, and we also need adherence to jointly established rules." But like I said, this kind of criticism happened on the sidelines, while the real headlines were made elsewhere.
So, Lars, what are we expecting from Chancellor Merz's visit to the US now?
That is really hard to gauge now. In fact, many insiders here are worried that Trump might already be unhappy with Merz, so openly trying to get closer to China. After all, China is pretty much the only big economy he dislikes even more than the EU. Now with Trump's recent tariff trouble, so with that roller coaster that we've seen between tariffs being yanked by the Supreme Court and then reinstated and later even raised by Trump, it's all but certain that Merz wants some clarity on how President Trump actually envisions transatlantic trade in future. A trade deal that the EU had signed with the US about a half a year ago is currently on ice, and there is at least some hope the Chancellor's trip to see Trump brings us closer to understanding what might happen to that. It's extremely important, after all, for many German and European companies that see the US as their major export market.
Lars, thank you. Lars Halter reporting there from Berlin. And now to all the news from the world of sport. Abhishek Sharma and Hardik Pandya struck blazing half-centuries as India thrashed Zimbabwe by 72 runs in their must-win Super 8 match to keep their semi-final hopes alive at the T20 World Cup in Chennai on Thursday. India will now face West Indies in a virtual quarter-final on Sunday, as the winner will enter the semi-final while the loser will be knocked out. DD India's Deepika reports.
At the ongoing Men's T20 Cricket World Cup, the Indian cricket team beat Zimbabwe by 72 runs in Super 8 match at Chennai's M.A. Chidambaram Stadium. With this victory, India has kept its hopes of qualifying for the semi-finals alive. In a must-win situation after losing to South Africa in their Super 8 Group 1 opener, India rode on half-centuries by Abhishek Sharma and Hardik Pandya to post 256 for 4 after being sent in back first. This is also the highest total of the T20 World Cup by Team India. Not only this, Abhishek recorded a half-century and captain Surya Kumar Yadav also completed the 4,000 international runs mark.
And India's batting was so good. I'll appreciate Hardik Pandya's knock and Abhishek Sharma's knock. It was mind-blowing.
And I honestly thought today's match was very, very nice. After the last match of India, it was very sad and heartbreaking. But then I got to know that there were two other more chances for India to win this match. It was very, very nice. And Abhishek Sharma's knock, it was mind-blowing.
It was really nice. I enjoyed it.
It was really great. Indian batting clicked finally. I think it was a true pitch. So there was no grip and turn, and our batsmen could just play through the line.
The match was interesting and everyone did their role and everyone was in their same form.
I think we have to just continue with the same team. Everybody knows their role and everybody knows what to do. We just have to continue the same team with the same form. And I think we can beat West Indies easily, but the struggle starts during the semi-finals. England seems to be a tough squad to beat, and let's see if we win the finals. I think 2 times in a row, nobody has done it.
We really flexed our muscles that we had shown in all the bilateral series. Finally, Abhishek Sharma came good on the day. Hopefully, we have another performance like this against West Indies, and fingers crossed, we go to the semi-finals and lift the cup.
With this victory, Team India now steps into another crucial encounter against the West Indies in Kolkata. With bowling still a concern for Team India, it remains to be seen how Team India plans to cope up with the departments which need strength and conditioning.
Match was a little one-sided. I felt, it is supposed to be one-sided, but yeah, given the bowling attack, I think we struggled a lot. Hopefully, next match we see how the bowling strength is.
Each player contributed fairly in India's massive victory against Zimbabwe. However, the challenge is still up front for Team India as the next match against West Indies has its own set of challenges that remains to be addressed by the captain and the coaches with an aim to make it to the semi-finals.
Victory against Zimbabwe by 72 runs. Abhishek Sharma's first 50 of the T20 Cricket World Cup tournament. Suryakumar Yadav completing 4,000 run and India setting a score which goes down in the books of history. All in one single match against Zimbabwe in Super 8. India has to keep up this momentum against West Indies as well in order to secure a sure-shot place in the semi-finals. On the other hand, as fans were expecting, South Africa has also defeated West Indies. The next match should also go in India's favour in order to see India playing the semi-finals. With camera person SP Dubey, this is Deepika reporting for DD India from M. A. Chidambaram Stadium, Chennai.
In the T20 World Cup on Friday, England will face New Zealand in their last Super 8 match. New Zealand spinners led by Mitchell Santner will pose some difficult questions to an English lineup spearheaded by the marauding Harry Brook. The match is of greater significance to the Black Caps as they bid to seal a semi-final spot, while England are already through to the last four after logging 2 consecutive wins. The huge 61-run win over Sri Lanka has elevated New Zealand's net run rate to 3.05, and to ensure that they progress, the Kiwis have to just avoid a heavy defeat. And that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour. You can get the latest news on the DD India mobile app on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code to download it. And we'll be back with more news as it breaks. I'm Ramesh Ramachandran from all of us here in New Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.